Ready. Good evening. I call the Alton Board of Selectmen's meeting, January 4th, 2021, to order at 6 p.m. Please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. A moment of silence, that would be fabulous. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Until further notice, to keep our members and staff safe and to comply with RSA 91-A, the state of emergency and governor's orders, restrictions on public gatherings, the town of Alton is moving from in-person meetings to remote audio participation meetings. To remotely attend the meeting, audio only, visit our website, www.alton.nh.gov. For telephone access and remote access instructions listed on the news and announcements on the home page. Or telephone the Selectmen's office, 603-875-2113 or 603-875-0229 between 8 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. of dial-in code and meeting ID for each Selectmen's meeting. Gentlemen, if there's no additions or amendments to the agenda tonight, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Mr. Chairman?
We approve the agenda as read.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McDonald to approve the agenda as presented, second by Mr. Whitman. Any discussion?
Yes, could I request something to be put on new business?
New business, what is it, sir?
Budget committee meetings. I just have a couple of questions on it.
Under what business? New, old?
New business, I guess, whatever.
No, I need a motion on his amendment, which I take it he's amending the motion. He's amending the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Holt is wanting to amend the agenda to put something in the new business budget committee meeting, seconded by Mr. Rochelle. Those in favor of the amendment, discussion? Those in favor of the amendment? Aye. Mr. McDonald? Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Motion to approve the agenda as amended. By Mr. McDonald and second by Mr. Whitman. Any other discussion? I'll poll the board. Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth? Yes. Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Agenda is approved as amended. Announcements being none, submission of public comments, questions, concerns. There are none. Appointments. James and Allison Brown, subdivide map 9, lot 35, Moore Farm Lane. This time, Mr. McDonald is stepping off the board. Do we have James and Allison Brown?
Hi, yes, we're here.
Okay, welcome, James and Allison. I appreciate you joining us tonight, and hopefully we can work out these concerns you have. We have everything that's all the way back to 2019-18 in our packet. We've read through it. I'm going to open up the floor to you guys first to kind of tell us what you've been through and how we got here at this point. I know what you're requesting, but I just want you to put it in words so we have it for the record.
So we are trying to subdivide a lot off of Allie's father-in-law, Bill Moore's farm, roughly,
Father.
what?
Father, not father.
Roughly 5 acres. This whole area up here is off of a pre-existing private road. So there are some, I don't know, unusual circumstances that come with that everyone's been trying to figure out. So at this point of this process, we were asked to come in front of you guys to ask for a waiver for what will be an improvement of that existing road minus the asphalt on it. Because everything up here is all dirt. Asphalt wouldn't really look appropriate up here. It is an additional cost. But we have taken the steps to look at the policy that's already in the highway department for a class 6/private road, like a standard, and followed that. So we're really just kind of at this point looking for you guys to either yay or nay whether or not we need asphalt or not. And if it helps with the decision making, I did have Kenny, the police, and the fire chief inspect the road, and all three of them have approved it. And I have emails. I can forward those to you guys if you need them.
Okay. Anything else, Allison, you'd like to add?
No, we just appreciate the time meeting with you. My father is also here. If you had any specifics that you needed to ask him as well, because obviously this is a family plot and we're looking to just go right next door to my sister Kim's property, which was back from '86. So in the continuation of Moore Farm Lane, it's just so everything aesthetically looks pleasing and the road is done and it's safe, you know? So that's where we're at. It's only one lot. We're looking at, basically it's a driveway, you know, but it's to subdivide off of it. You know, we're just trying to go by the guidance we're getting from Jess in the planning department, and, you know, to get the waiver from the asphalts with you guys. We originally thought it was going to be the zoning board, but after John helped out and looked at the application from the building department, he's like, no, it's really not a zoning issue, but the waiving of the asphalt comes by for the enforcement, I guess. So that's where we're at. And we're looking to make sure the road is accepted in so that we ultimately can subdivide. And that we are going to sign off on the plat that the road, there is absolutely zero intention of the town taking over this road. My father has maintained the road as it currently is, and my brother for 30 plus years already. And being up in the woods here, we prefer to be alone. So we would note it on the plat that there is no intention for the town to take over the roadway, and that if by chance it was ever asked, then it would have to be brought up to the town road standards for the town to take it over. So it will be noted on the plat. So I hope that helps a little bit, and feel free to ask us any specific questions you might have.
Okay, first question for you, Ally and Jim. You stated that the fire chief, police chief, and Mr. Roberts came up and looked at it.
Yes, we asked them to come up and take a look because before we started, we met with Kenny to make sure we were looking at the town highway road standards for the private roadways, and the class 6 and private roadways are guided the same, which I included in the packet for you folks, because Jessica said you might want to take a look at those guidelines. So she told me to include that with the packet for you. So it should be there. And then Kenny, I'm hoping he's on the call because of this. So you could ask him specifics on the road condition and all of that, because he guided us through the whole process.
Well, I know this creates problems for a lot of families, the way it's set up. And looking at this whole packet tonight, it just reinstituted my thought that I will never go before the planning board of this community or any other community. I had my dealings with the planning board years ago. And reading your packet has not changed anything. I'm glad that the folks downstairs in the land use office has helped you. And I've read that in the packet. Jessica has tried to reach out and help you, and along with everybody else. My only concern, where I understand it's family and down the road, and you folks have been there ever since I was in school. My only concern down the road, sooner or later, it seems like some family members either have a falling out, and somebody wants to sell off their home. And I think this is one of the main concerns of the town, is that new individual might come in and say, we want the road I want the town to accept the road. And my only thought to this whole process would be that you folks possibly would put in deed restrictions that if this property ever sold, that the new buyers would have to be aware this is not a town-approved road and it does not meet the current standards of when it is sold. Okay?
Correct.
And I, you know, at that point, as long as that's on there, because the last thing we'd want is someone come in and say, well, I'm on this private road, I want the town to take it over. And all of a sudden the town looks like they might have a liability. I want to make sure the town is protected through the whole thing. And that you folks, as a family, get what you also need, as long as we go by the guidelines and minimum road standards on private roads, plus the sign off from various departments. So now that I gave you my, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jim.
No, I'm sorry too. I thought you were finished, but that's actually been part of the process from the word go. We understood that as we read it. There's a state book with all the RSAs, a hard road to travel. It actually addresses that particular issue. So it's already in our application packet that it'll be put in the deed for the property, that it's a private road, that the town has no responsibility to build it, maintain it, repair it. And if there is a sale or relinquishment of ownership down the road, that those folks buying that property would be aware of that. And if they wanted that road to become like Class 5 in Alton, they would be responsible for bringing it up to spec.
It would be on the plat.
So we have every intention of making it legal that way.
As long as it has the condition.
Well, you got my thoughts on it, so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Whitman if he has any questions.
Not really. I kind of agree with what you said, so.
Mr. Rochelle.
Yeah, no, same thing. The only thing is that you are adding on, if I'm correct, 600 feet roughly?
They're improving.
So we're improving that amount. The last map, or the only map that I could find, was the subdivision for my sister-in-law, Kimberly Moore, and it does show the road running quite lengthily past her property, but it also addresses that it was only improved up to 420 feet. So we're not adding on necessarily, but we are improving the remaining amount. So it is roughly 650 feet.
So it's roughly it's not an addition to what's there, it's adding on, and the whole thing as a whole is roughly 600 feet.
Yes.
The improvement.
The improvement, yes.
The improvement.
The original drive goes all the way up to the house, the house to the barn, and they're going to be in between Kimberly's and the main house. Am I correct on that, Jim?
I guess I'm not sure how to answer your question, so I'll just kind of answer it the way I think I understand it. So if you were to look at, and I know you can't, but if you were to look at Kim's subdivision map or plot, it would show the road coming up in front of her house and then continuing straight up into the woods. It was actually surveyed that way. And it's roughly 1,100 feet long, somewhere in that area, maybe a little bit less than that. But it also shows on that same map or plot map that only 420 feet of that road was improved to get her subdivision because it was in front of her house. So we're improving the remaining amount to get up to where we want to go.
Okay, understood. And I feel the same way. As long as there's conditions in the condition put forth, if the property should ever sell, that it would have to be upgraded to a standard of highway
Of that time.
at that time.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, that's fine, but yes, we already have it written up that way, so.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes, after, reviewing this, I got a little totally confused, but, not being a planning board member in the town of Alton, but I agree with you, Mr. Chairman, about the, future.
Okay. We get Mr. Roberts on the phone. Stay with us, Jim and Ally.
Okay.
Yes, sir, I'm on the phone.
Hi, sir. So you heard all our conversations, our comments and everything.
Yes, I did.
I know you've had some input along the way on this plan and everything, and I just want to hear it verbally from you, so it's part of the record if I could.
Yeah, I've watched through the process of them upgrading the roadway for the last remaining paper road. And just to mention, there are paper roads in Alton Shores that have been upgraded in the same direction, but not actually looked at by me. But there is an enormous amount of paper roads in there, and that's basically what this was. So they upgraded the paper road to its full length. They did a great job at it. All drainage systems are in play. The gravel was in play. The sub-base as well as the top gravel is completely done. It's actually a pretty good road. I'm really kind of impressed with it when it was down to the finals. So, and as you mentioned before, if it's in the deed restriction that this will never be adopted, and again, it still comes back to the Board of Selectmen. It's entirely up to the Board of Selectmen at that time. If it ever came, they tried to come back for the Selectmen to stand up and say that it has to be brought up to Class 5 standards. That's our regulations. And no matter what happens tonight, this is always going to be there for the Board of Selectmen's decision of whether or not they'll adopt a road.
All right, sir, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes.
I know we had, one of the departments heads has stated that what precedents this would start in the future. But as you've noticed over the years, more families are coming back to their original homestead and wanting to buy acreage off their parents, live on that land. And it's quite admirable. The nice thing I see about it is they're buying the 5 acres. So down the road, if it's ever sold after generation after generation, the least thing is whoever buys it could get a loan on the house and land. A lot of places have it that the land is not owned by the person who owns the house, and sometimes it's hard to get a loan. So I have no problem with this, not to lay asphalt on the recommendations that's been brought up to where it should be and everything else, and what's going to be in there. I'm just going to look at the town administrator, see if she has any comments on it.
I don't have any comments on this project, except the town planner is in attendance also.
I was going to suggest.
You'd like to have Jessica come in, gentlemen? We get Jessica on the phone. Right, I almost forgot that. Thank you for.
I was going to, she didn't.
Oh, sure you will.
But
I know you.
Good evening.
Hi, Jessica. How are
Hi.
you?
All right.
You heard all that. Well, basically, I guess you heard most of my comment, and everybody else is kind of nodding their head. So I figured you're the planner, and you heard me say it's been kind of confusing going through that and a little aggravating. And I'm not even the applicant, but I figured I'd let you, we'd let you say something here if you'd like to.
I mean, what kind of questions, do you have any questions for me? Or?
No, ma'am, I just didn't know if you had any input on this.
I mean, I don't know how much more input. I mean, you guys evidently had a chance to look through my planner review, and you seem to all be on the opposite end of what my opinion was, which is fine. I just laid out the facts, and it's ultimately up to you if you decide to draft a waiver or not.
Well, it's not that I don't think you didn't do a good job presenting this to us. You did. I spent 2 afternoons reading through all your notes. So
I know
will
it's
say,
very long and lengthy.
yes, it's very well put together, and it seemed redundant at times from time period to time period. And it's not that, I wouldn't say I disagree with you. I understand where you're coming from, but I also look at a homestead, a farm of this nature, such as mine at 21 acres, if my daughter wanted to come home and build, or a family member did, what we'd have to go through. The only thing I can say to you, hopefully as the new town planner for the town, you'll find a way to make things a little easier for certain families when it comes to large tracts of land, where they're not selling it really on the open market to private. They're trying to bring their families home. Or I'd hope the planning board would, with your help. So, but I just wanted to give you some input here if you had some, and I knew I wasn't gonna agree with you. I didn't know about the other 3. But I did want to say, well, good job put together though.
All right.
Gentlemen, anything for Jessica? Paul?
Just going to ask her, you are still, I guess you're planning for 2021 to have a workshop on this matter?
We're
Related?
Yes, we're actually going to have several workshops. Our first one scheduled for next Tuesday. We're going to start, updating and sort of going through all of our regulations. Just to update some of them and especially with the subdivision regulations.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, that really needs a lot of work. In Alton, it's very black and white. There's no sort of middle way to subdivide. You're either like building a road or you're not. So we're looking into being able to not have these regulations as strict as they are now.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Holt?
I'm all set.
Okay, Jessica, thank you. Ken, thank you. Ally and Jim, thank you. I'm sure if you stay in line to listen to our meeting, you'll hear our vote here in a minute.
Thank you
Gentlemen,
very much for your time.
Welcome. I would entertain a motion to approve not to lay asphalt down on the Moore Farm Road as requested by Jim and James and Allison Brown.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Wentworth to approve the request of James and Allison Brown not to lay asphalt down on the Moore Farm Road. Second by Mr. Rochelle. Discussion. Being by Mr. Holt.
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle.
Yes.
Mr. Whitman.
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Vote is in the affirmative. Okay, gentlemen, moving on. Mr. McDonald will be joining the board back at 6:21. Old business, Shibley's at the Pier lease agreement. Gentlemen, in front of you and on the table, you have the lease agreement in your binder and on the table. You got 2 copies. I take it you got 2 copies, basically, so you can make scratches and white outlines and everything else, so you'll have the final version at your seat. So I will at this point turn it over to the town administrator.
Sure. Thank you. So you've got the lease in front of you. The one that is in the binder has been changed. So the one that's at your seat that was on the tabletop is more accurate. It has the lease payment for next year, which is based on 2%, in accordance with the lease. Annual increase has to be between 2% and 5% each year.
That says it on.
Yep. And so that was added. And,
Liz, you said 2 and 5%.
the increase each year can be no less than 2% and no more than 5%. It's
CPI.
CPI, yeah,
Out of Boston, right?
yeah, yeah. And that's usually not done until like July or sometime around there.
Right.
So we had to put in a dollar amount. So we took the payment that was made this year and we did the minimum of 2% because the CPI has been averaging about 1.5%.
And I know this is our lease. Has Mr. Shibley looked at this lease at all?
Yes.
He has, okay. And has he had any requests for any deletions or additions?
No, we had a long chat today and he's in attendance actually remotely if you wanted to talk.
That would be great if we could get him on. It's basically almost the same as what was written before. It's just the extension of 20 years.
Right.
I had one concern.
We'll get to Mr. Shibley and then when we go for a motion, we'll bring it up for discussion. Is that okay?
Yeah, I just had a concern with one section, that's all.
Mr. Shibley, are you there tonight?
Hi, Ruben. Yes, I'm here. I'm good. How are you?
But Liz has told me that you've had conversation on this lease. Are you in agreement the way the town is presenting the lease to the townspeople?
Yes, I am.
Any input or anything other than that on it, sir?
No, I read it over a couple times today and spoke to Liz this afternoon, and it's I'm a go if the townspeople give us, or if you give the approval, and then they do.
Okay, sir. I appreciate it. At this point here, I'd entertain a motion to approve the lease to be brought towards the people. Town meeting. Second. Lawrence has made a motion to approve the lease is presented to us tonight to bring to town meeting for the folks to vote on, second by Mr. McDonald. I'll open up for discussion. Mr. Holt?
Yes, I just had, section 3, use of the premises.
Which page, sir?
It's on, 2 of 9.
2 of 9, section 3, which paragraph?
First paragraph, 3.1. I don't know, it's just a little confused. The leasee hereby agrees that the lease parcel shall be repairing and maintaining a commercial restaurant together with customer setting on Lakeside Dock and Lakeside Deck and Lakeside Dock.
Right.
That's that little finger pier that runs down the wall.
Okay, that's, like this year he used that for,
That would be the big one.
Right.
To the right.
Looking from the water be to the left. Looking from the parking lot be the right with the stairs going down.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Okay. Okay, the deck, okay, okay. I'm all set with it.
You're all set. Okay.
Fine.
Any other discussion? Being none, I'll poll the board. Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Whit?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald? Yes. Mr. Wentworth? Yes. Votes in affirmative. Good luck to you, Mr. Shibley, on this vote at town meeting.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you, board. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Liz.
Take care, Dave.
Dave?
Thanks.
Okay, moving on, gentlemen. Down to number 2, articles, fund balance recommendations. Please, you're gonna bring up those issues, the 2% in your report?
Sure.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I won't bring it up as chairman's report. Ha.
okay.
All right, gentlemen, in the book, you will find all the warrant articles again. In the book, you'll also find where Liz and Laura came up with recommendations. Which one should be coming out of the fund balance? And which one should be supported by taxes? I guess it's all supported by taxes, no matter how you look at it, because the fund balance is derived out of taxes, whether it's property taxes, past due taxes, revenues coming in. But just to go over them if you want real quick. The fire equipment, which would be the boat. Half the boat of $150,000 come out of the fund balance, with the other half coming out of the revolving fund of the ambulance. Rock and asphalt crushing, $30,000, not requested every year. I think it's been almost requested every year since I've been back. Retaining wall down at the bay, not requested every year, which it hasn't. We had some money put in there, wasn't enough to redo it, so we have to go back. And it's getting to the point, I'm sure if anybody asks us, I know my opinion will be that it will maintain as a stone wall, as it is now, but just the base and rocks will be repointed in the future, hopefully a fence going on the top for safety for kids. But I don't think the 75, what we got in there, you have it at your seat. Retaining wall. Somewhere in there.
20,350.
20,000, 75 is 95. If I remember right, I think that quote came in over $100,000.
Yeah.
But this is a start, and hopefully maybe a mason, we can get a couple of masons that would give us a price on doing sections of it, and we could go on.
Well, even if we use 60,000 of it one year and 60,000 the next year, or 80,000, whatever we can put in there, and go piece by piece.
But I think when we need to put it out, because most masons in our area are local masons, they're employed by themselves. I think we need to put it out there that some aspects of that workman's comp requirement could be waived for an individual sole proprietor, because in New Hampshire, if you're a sole proprietor, you're not required to have.
Right. Well, I think we should have something that they can sign it.
Well, we do, we have that. Yeah, we do have that they can sign off a waiver on it. But I think we need to get that more out there. Traffic safety devices are $100,650. That's a one-time request. We've talked about it, alerting people at the crosswalks. Police department's radios, one-time request that the chief asked for. 2021 emergency management, $40,000 in case this COVID thing keeps going on or the new variant strings it out even further for us. And especially if the vaccines don't work. Water Main Expense Trust, which is money owed to the water department. That comes to $496,173. If you add in additional possibilities, if you add in the nonprofits, it would bring it up to $558. I would say nonprofits should stay as regular warrant articles, and that we go along with the recommendations of Laura and Liz on the other ones to be funded by the fund balance.
It's, if you're taking, you're buying a $300,000 fire boat, you're saying it's not coming out of taxes, we're gonna pay it. You're taking away that chance of the people saying yes or no, because you know as well as I do, when they see that it ain't gonna cost something, they're gonna go forward. And when you have something that's gonna cost something, they all look into it and start thinking. I just feel like we're taking a right away from the voters.
Well, not, they still had the right to, they still had the right to vote on it. We're giving them that option.
But you're taking away that right, really, because it's not, you're already using the money, instead of putting it back on the tax rate, which I still don't believe that we've already raised that money. It's in our accounts, and it's going back to, for the same purpose as what we raised it for. Does not make our rate go like this. We've been pretty steady with our rates over the years. We've been right between $12 and $14 a thousand for years. And to do this, I feel as though we're taking a right away from the people. Because I know a lot of people see it on there that says, oh, it's not gonna cost us nothing. Until they find out it's a $300. When they see that go in the bay, let me tell you something, we're gonna catch holy hell.
But then they turn around and they look at it, they did the math and the numbers up, and they say they're gonna lease it for 5 years, 10 years. You're paying interest on all that money for $300,000. This way here, you're saving the taxpayers interest, and you're not putting on the backs of the taxpayers for 5 years out or 10 years out, like we do on a lot of the equipment. A lot of folks forget about all these payments that come due every year, and we keep adding another truck on 5-year lease, another loader on 5-year lease, and everybody loses track of how much money actually goes out of this community because of these 5 years leases. We never get rid of it.
I agree.
This way here, we buy it, we pay for it once, it's done for 20 years.
But we have a fire boat. We sent the police boat in and got it redone for $25,000. We could send that fire boat right over to Eastern and get it redone. Instead of spending $300, we're spending $20,000.
I have no idea.
15 calls a year.
I have no idea. They were supposed to be looking at it to see if it could be salvageable.
Right.
We have not heard back.
No, we haven't.
Not yet.
Plus,
Let's go.
plus we gotta remember that boat is not up to, my opinion, it's not up to standards for a fireboat.
That fireboat, exactly, that boat was never intended
To be a
to be a fireboat. It was transferred to a fireboat.
That's what it was bought for.
But that's not what its previous use was.
Yeah, but that's not what it was built for.
Steering, new motors and everything else put in. We put some money into it
Mhm.
to make it so that it was what they wanted. Now we got a new chief and we want a new $300,000 boat instead of either fixing that one or going getting one.
Well, Chief Ridley brought boat problems to this board the last few years as well. And I remember one day I had a call, it was underwater in the bay. It was supposed to tie a rope to the thing, but it was underwater.
Yeah, because they don't go down and check it and the pump didn't go on.
Well, I think something definitely has to be done with the fireboat, whether it's rebuild the one we got or buy a new one.
Or entertain the idea of looking for another reasonable used fireboat.
Oh, that's another.
When I say reasonable, I'm saying something that would be around the $7,500 to $150,000 range fireboat that's more equipped to use for what we need on the lake as it is. The one that we have there is too slow. It has a deep hull. It can't do a lot of the things that we need. So obviously, that's why I feel as though it's a good idea not to spend any money on this boat. I don't think we need a $300,000 replacement boat, but I think there's boats out there that we could look into and research to accommodate what we need for half that amount.
I think that's right.
Okay. Gentlemen, so the main purpose is we've already discussed the boat, we approved the go forward. I think more of the fact is tonight we're looking at how to pay for it. Do we pay for it out of the surplus fund, or do we just put it back at taxation? So I would entertain a motion that we approve Article DJPQRSTX as presented to us tonight by the town administrator and finance officer to come out of the fund balance.
Water main.
Well, I've asked for a motion. See if I get a motion in a second.
I'll second. Discussion.
A motion?
Motion. All right, I make a motion that we approve D through X, or DJPQRSTX.
Second?
I'll second.
Second. Mr. Rochelle, discussion.
All right, the water main interest.
Yes, sir.
Why is that on there when that's coming out of the fund anyways?
Well, because it,
Because we're dissolving one to move the interest
right,
back.
what happened was DRA disallowed it last year to move all the money over because we did not have the exact interest to the date when it would be moved over. So DRA, even after they told us they allowed it, decided to disallow it. So now Laura had to come up with the exact interest to the day so it can be pulled out of the surplus fund, so the taxpayers are still got to approve that to be pulled out of the surplus.
That's what I'm saying is, why are we paying it this way through,
Fund
the
balance.
one-time fund balance?
Because,
We're not paying, not just moving it over to them, letting the voters vote on it, move it over.
because we have to by DRA rules and regulations. Has nothing to do with us, otherwise it would all been done last year, but they couldn't do it. This is the money that was left over after that article was approved.
It's a house cleaning.
It's house cleaning.
Yeah, I just didn't realize that's the way we had to do it with the.
They gave us the money, so we had to deposit it into the
Right.
account, which now it goes, yeah.
Yeah, we were one of the ones that worked on finding all sorts of stuff down there. Okay.
Other discussion?
That makes sense.
Well, just clarifying what you said earlier on these warrant articles D through X. And I'm meaning the discussion we just had about the fireboat. This is only in an assignment of funds. This is not approval of one way or another of approving for a boat purchase,
We already approved the warrant articles.
right?
We presented, we agreed with that warrant article. That's the way our
Yes.
motion will show when it goes. We're not saying go buy your boat. We can't say that.
Right.
What
No,
we're saying is $150,000 out of the surplus fund will pay for half the fireboat. The other half has already been stated in the record that the other half would come out of the revolving ambulance account. As far as the rack, as long as these are approved, then yes, they can go out. The RFP is already out there. We're getting quotes. So they come in. It's still up to the selectmen whether to decide yea or nay on the vote.
right.
Okay, if they want.
But we can still make that recommendation later
So
on.
hopefully the chief, Mr. O'Brien, who Mr. O'Brien has put all the work and effort into this, might go out and say, geez, we just found a real good boat. We won't have to spend all this money.
Mhm.
Okay, so maybe they will, just like the ladder truck. Okay?
Exactly.
Down the road. They might come in and say, we found this beautiful ladder truck. We can get it for this much money. It will save, $500,000 or so.
This money would be equipment fund, so we could use it for that too if we had to. If they found one cheap, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I just have one.
Yes, sir.
On J, rock and asphalt crushing,
Yes, sir.
it says not requested every year.
For the last 3 years, I've known it's been requested because we've had the cemetery.
Yeah.
But we won't have all the cemetery, nothing more will be being taken out of the cemetery because that stuff is gonna be left there because we're having that engineered to have it all redone, and we're gonna have to leave some of that there to fill in the different areas.
Use it there.
I bring Mr. Roberts on the phone.
He has 2,000-3,000 yards up the pit now of the old asphalt, rocks from the roads and everything. We just keep storing them up there and then we go in and crush them. That saved us a boatload
Oh, no.
last year on, we didn't have to buy.
I know that, I know that.
Gravel and everything we had. And it was a lot more than 50,000 we made.
But, so, I'm just thinking about, the trouble we got into last year, make up the money that we put in there. When you're taking your money out of your surplus account,
Yeah.
well.
We didn't offset the tax rate, but this year, if you remember back at the meeting, Ms. McDonald wanted to use $1 million of the surplus fund.
Yeah.
We didn't quite go that far. The year before, it was $500,000. Me and Sydney at that time requested $250. That's as far as the two of us would go. The board went with $500. The town administrator talked to her earlier. I did not get a chance to talk to Laura, but they felt comfortable with this, that this would not make it go up and down on us again. And depending what department heads come in next year for capital improvements.
We've been pretty level with our tax rate within a $2 span for 30 years now. I mean, we've stayed pretty close on our, we're not jumping and lowering.
Right.
Yeah, and that was changing it, putting the money onto it.
Any other discussion? All the board, Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Whitman,
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle,
Yes.
Mr. Holt,
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes.
If we write something on there, that this is going into the capital reserve and, somehow
You mean like
it
on,
doesn't mean we're buying a boat for that kind of money. You know what I mean?
No, it just says it's going, it's.
That's why I asked that.
$300,000 is going into the capital reserve equipment.
Okay.
That's why I asked that question,
So it's
to
not
be
out
honest
there.
with you, Virgil.
Well, it's out there. I mean, it's out there. The fire department wants to do both.
But if they see something, if something is seen in between, it doesn't have to be spent.
Right.
We can reduce that amount.
But the nice thing about it is revenues. If it comes down, we have to purchase a boat at $300,000. At least the revenues are coming out of money that has been paid in by the insurance companies for transportation of citizens and non-residents. It's revenues the town has made. So at least half of an apparatus is being paid from revenues that have been generated by users fees, whether they're taxpayers, non-residents or non-residents. Still revenues.
You do notice you're gonna start a precedent because you'll have them all coming in for all their.
Well, that's where the selectmen have to stand on their 2 feet and say no.
Well, I think that,
And the finance officer and the town administrator has to say no.
well, I think if we're gonna do this next year, and even think about it, I think that we should involve CIP, who sits and listens to what's real important and what can get you by next year and what you really need, and have them send a letter over.
Well, the other thing is
This would be a good spot to put it.
the other thing is look at the finance director and say, what do we think the surplus was this year? And if it's not that much, just say, all right, we only used 250 instead of 500.
That's right. Oh, we do
Okay,
that.
so you put in another 215. We really didn't do that this year, but we could always ask him in there, is there gonna be a surplus left to the budget? Because we really don't know what the surplus of our budget is this year until the end of January.
not gonna be much this year because.
Well, I didn't ask you for that. Thank you. You feel, I know it's not gonna be that much, but you then just have to put it right out there, okay? You're raining on my parade here.
Sorry.
That's all right. Somebody has to. So, yeah, so next year we might say, we're not gonna touch it. Okay? Then we might say, no, 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 we're not gonna do all this. But each time we do one of these leases for 5 years, there's an amount of interest out in there. When you're talking a $200,000, $300,000 piece of equipment, that's a lot of interest to be paying for a lease purchase for 5 years.
Gets me is we don't buying stuff at the dollar at the end of the lease like we agreed to in the beginning.
Well, you do. You buy it at $1 a lease, but there's an interest added on because you're borrowing all that money for 5 years. So it's.
Instead of buying it right on each year.
$30,000 to $40,000 you're saving.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, so we moved with that, I polled the board, we're all in agreement to that, let's move on. I'm trying to see if we can beat the half hour here, but I think I lost. Next one is, new business, budget committee meetings. Yes, Mr. Holt?
I just had 2 questions, refresh my memory. The budget committee public hearing, is that
January 14th and 15th, or 13th and 14th was in the paper, I believe.
It's in the paper.
13th, isn't it?
Next week on
With
Wednesday.
a snow date.
Okay, my question is that, how's that gonna be? Is that gonna be Zoom?
Zoom.
It is?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and my other question was, when will, the information packet be available to the public?
Well, it's up to the budget committee, and that's after tomorrow night, after they go through the warrant articles and the board's recommendation of 2% less budget.
And those items would be put onto the website. People can open them up and print them out if they want.
When?
Well, we don't know.
Once they-
Oh,
Depends on the chairman of the budget committee, which we have no control.
Okay.
And when he gets it to the.
I'm just asking.
When he gets it on secretary, so I can't give you that date. You'd have to listen to the meeting tomorrow night to find out when that will be available. I have no idea, but it has to be 7 days in advance, doesn't it, or 5
Well,
days?
just the notice of the public hearing itself. We can get the documents on as soon as the committee makes some decision on that.
45 days.
Mm-hmm.
Seems to me I saw in the paper 2 announcements with 2 different starting times. I think one said 6 and one said 6:30.
Oh, really? Oh, could it be,
The snow day?
oh, I don't know. I
They were
don't.
right next to each other.
Called snow.
I think one is for the school and one is for the.
Yes, one is the school and one is the town.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
okay.
Yep,
Yeah, that's the way they did it, simultaneously together, side by side.
yes.
I got a question. We gotta talk to people. Why can't we do like the planning board?
Oh, we're gonna request that at the budget committee that night for a Zoom meeting.
Well, even here,
We can.
like when we had Jim.
It was originally gonna be that way, but it stopped being that way. So when,
I just think it's better when you see a person.
they just can't make faces of you then.
That's right.
All right, anything else, Mr. Holt? Okay, moving on to Selectmen's reports, Mr. Holt.
No, nothing.
Mr. Rochelle.
Not this time.
Mr. Whitman.
Nope.
No, I missed my planning board.
Okay, Mr. Wentworth. Nothing. All I'd like to say is, gentlemen, welcome to 2021. And all the town employees, welcome to 2021. Let's hope for, I can't say last year was a bad year.
Town employees did good last
It was a unique year. And I hope that the uniqueness will go away this year with everything. And I just hope that all residents and taxpayers will still stay supportive of our community and the employees when requested to do so. That's it for me. I'll turn it over to town administrator's report.
So I sent an email out to all of you today, and Phil and Virgil, you have hard copies in your mailbox, and it has to do with town employees testing positive for COVID and everything. And I had mentioned in the email that I would not be sending out an email anymore letting you know, of the positive test result. And then I would bring it up under TA report. So I'll try that for a couple of meetings and see how it goes. And it may not even be necessary. I could figure out another way to do it if you really need to know, if you want to know how many. So we did receive, during the last week, we have received information of another positive test.
Because we have the town building shut down, right? People can't just walk in and out.
That's correct. So that's all I have for TA report.
That's it.
That's it.
Wow, something's going on over there. Something's going on. These are way too short.
That's not it for town administrator's report. You gotta go over your 2%.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Gentlemen, seeing I got you here tonight, I asked for this list to be here, so I'm gonna do it. I'm not gonna put numbers. That's your desk. You will see a reduction. And on the back page, it gives you total reduction. So let's give you totals.
You're talking about this sheet here, Jim?
These two, yeah, right.
Those two right there. If you look down through there, you will see a 2% reduction. Administration department, $7,685 reduction. Percentage of department budget, 2%. Assessing, wages full-time, $4,583. 2%. Wait, no, let me get through the list. This will result in some unemployment for a period of time of the assessor. I'm just gonna read them, then we're gonna go back to them. Audio and visual media equipment, $70. That's 2% of the budget. Budget committee, nothing there because they didn't turn anything in. Building department, wages full-time, 2%. Code official salary cut, merit or COLA or some of each. Cemetery, contracted services, $1,650, 2.38%. One season of fertilizer application will not be done. Conservation, nothing turned in. Elections, required by law. Emergency management, EMT is preparing for unanticipated state emergency expenses. Nothing turned in. Fire department, total $3,000 is what they're reducing, not saying where it's coming from. Historical, well, they do $1,000 from historical preservation and fire prevention of $2,000. Gilman Museums, turf and grounds, $162, that equals 2%. Grounds and maintenance total, $5,242, which is 2%. General expense, furniture polish, $23. New equipment, enclosed trailer, $3,400. Turf grounds expense, trash containers bay, $600. Jonesesville Fenway, trash containers, $600. Liberty Tree Park, fence repair, $350. Railroad Square Park, one picnic table, $269. Highway Department, wages full-time, $27,702, 2%. Eliminate manager, create a foreman. Well, I was always in position for a foreman's position versus manager, but Thank you, Mr. Roberts. IT, we have nothing there. Legal, nothing there. Old Home Week, $2,482, 2% currently. Old Home Week has $10,966 in their account. Patriotic decorations, $335. Planning Department, total 2%. Wages full-time, $600. Town planner would receive COLA only. Meetings and conferences, $619. None would be attended. Dues and fees, $50, two less organizations. Travel mileage, $389. No mileage reimbursement. Personnel policy. Office supplies, $214. Reference materials, $285. General expenses, $149. Printing and signs, $49. No notary or JP in general expenses for that. Solid waste disposal fees, $7,600. Represents 5%. Streetlights, 0. Town clerk, collector's office, nothing brought in. Welfare, general assistance, $642, 2%. Welfare was already reduced, if you remember. Yeah. That's what brings up your $200,000 you gentlemen were looking for, but at this point, I'll turn it over to Liz. She can explain more on it.
So the fire chief is in attendance remotely, and he just texted me that he has an update for his section on this form. He was unable to get to more of the line items due to some emergencies, if you wanted to hear from him.
What is the total amount right now on that line? Do we have a bottom line total?
With the full chart?
Yes, ma'am.
No. But we can get
All right,
that.
while they're adding that up, gentlemen, I'm gonna look at you and see if you have any questions or concerns on this. Yes, sir.
Yes, I find it very interesting. Especially, a lot of the reductions in, wages. I have the default budget in my hand here, which is less than the 2% cut on the budget. And in the default budget, there's not one wage reduction. Matter of fact, there's all wage increases.
A COLA, Mr. COLA and all.
It's wage increases.
It is wage increase, but the COLA by personnel policy, legal counsel, EBRA, states we put in there because that is contractual.
I agree. I'm not saying that, Mr. Chairman. What I'm saying is we can take a budget that's less and still pass out COLA pay raises and make it work. It's less, it's more than 2%. And here, we're coming up with
the town assessor
with wages.
The town assessor feels he cannot cut any more from his budget. That's why he's willing to take unemployment for 2 to 3 weeks.
3.5 weeks.
3.5 weeks. Instead of laying off his secretary. He does not feel any line items he can pull off.
These budgets are very lean. You asked them to come in with lean budgets. They did that. You've asked them not to spend to the end of 2020. They did that. EMT asked you to not cut anything further because of unanticipated expenses coming in 2021. I'll give you one classic example of the frustration the department heads are feeling, and that would be the building department. His budget is $109,000 total, grand total, $109,000. $99,000 of that is wages. Those are your services. If you ask him to remove, if you set aside the wages, he's only got $10,000. So that 2% goes to 20% right there. He has a new employee that has in writing a hire letter of, benefits and, hourly rate and 25 cents per hour end of probation increase, et cetera, et cetera.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
What are we going to do if the people vote in the default budget? They vote down the operating budget and we go to the default budget. How are we going to exist?
It's like we did a couple of years ago, Bob.
Less money than the 2% reduction. More. You're going to have less money to work with than with the 2%.
What was the difference between the default budget and the 200,000?
Wasn't a lot.
About 100,000.
It wasn't that much. It was very.
It was 100,000. Oh, I don't think it was that much.
I've got it right here, Mr. Chairman. The, 2% references 209,454.
Right.
Which comes out to 8,168,729. The default budget, to the best of my knowledge, is 8,099,570.
So about $70,000 less.
I don't think it was.
Well, if we had to live with that, I'd just have to lay off.
We live with what the voters give us. We work with
To
the.
make it work.
And that's why maybe, I have an idea that the people this year are gonna vote that default budget in.
I have to agree with you because of the indecisiveness of this board is why they're gonna do it.
Oh, at the 2%,
Now we're still playing with it.
I think at the 2% reduction, we're sending the right message.
Laura,
If the planning board approves.
Laura, can you, give us that total budget? What's there?
Of this one?
Yes, ma'am.
I got, I think you're adding the fire one in again. I mean, I have $65,504.
$65,500 what?
$4.
We're $135,000 short.
Let me ask you this.
Yes,
Is
sir.
the default and the budget $70,000 difference? Close to that right now. We'll take the 65 out.
But that's, the board asked for 2%, $200,000 reduction. Well, right now, we're at $65,500. This is what our department heads came up with. So at this point, I'm asking the board what you want to do. 'Cause tomorrow night, I gotta present this to the budget committee. There's not another week. Tomorrow night's the night.
Well, I think we made a motion last week to cut the operating 2%.
Well, you said you wanted to see it, so it's been brought forward.
Yeah, but my feeling is I don't think we should be cutting any wages.
Well, you're not cutting any wages. That's what your department heads are recommending to do to meet the requirement of 2% of each department.
Wait a minute. You go with the default budget, what happens? What happens?
They get no merit. All they get is COLA.
That's correct.
Right.
Yes.
Okay,
They don't get merit, they get COLA.
that's right. Yeah, but how do we exist with the default budget?
Because of the fall budget with the merit taking out, that's where you lose the most of your increase to your budget right
And
there.
remember, when there is a default budget that's voted in, there are consequences. And it takes a few years to catch up.
Now, the insurance hike, that's in default, right?
That would be
Yeah.
in default, yes, because that's a
Well,
COLA.
that's a big hike,
Contractual,
but that's a big hike this year. It was.
Uh-huh.
There'll be no new no new truck driver. That won't be there. So there'll be no new insurance in that. So that will save you roughly $45,000, $45,000. And that goes to the default budget. I'm just trying to think of some of the other things off the top of my head that would be there. So, like I said, it's up to you gentlemen, the three of you, because two of us opposed the motion, three was for. So if you want to come up with another $135,000, or $134,500, let me know now so I can bring it to the budget committee, because this is all your department heads gave you.
No, but I think if we're reorganizing down there at the town barn, I don't think we should be throwing a new truck, a new driver in yet, waiting a year on it.
The only reason Mr. Roberts proposed that too is because it's possibility, two roads are coming. There's possibly two more roads, and that's why it's putting it in there. Because by the time you add the two roads in onto the routes, you're adding another 2 hours, to 2.5 to 3 hours onto those routes.
Yeah, but you've got some short routes, some longer routes. I mean,
Well, I think
got by without having a winter, hiring winter plowers for the last few years, and they've taken over those routes.
don't forget, in the proposed budget, there was a proposed, lease payment of $81,000 for the new grader and another piece of equipment. I get them mixed up, those pieces of equipment.
Greater and loader. Because those leases are up this year.
These leases are
Yeah.
up.
So there are different things scattered about in all of the budgets in the proposed budget. Some of them are covered in the default budget and some are not.
So let me ask you, if you go to the default budget, you'd still have money in to pay for a lease or to extend payments for the loader and grader, correct?
Yeah,
But those are up. Do we
But he was
chance
asking
to run for a year and release them next year?
Well, you still have money in there for a lease for the loader and grader, so there's no reason you couldn't do a new lease.
this would be for, Ken is in attendance, maybe he can explain. I know he was looking for a new lease for the new
grader,
equipment. The
loader,
new
yeah.
one would be put off a year. The existing one, to finish it up, is covered.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, if we could, the leases are up, run them for another year, and then release them next year. Take the $81,000.
Well, if there's enough money in that lease, though, you could re-up the new lease, couldn't you? Madam Administrator? If there's enough
If
money to
there's-
pay for the new lease,
Yeah,
if there's a line item in there for lease equipment, there's no reason the selectmen cannot entertain a new lease if the money is already there.
right, you've done that before.
Right. What I'm saying is, run the ones we got for the year, and put it back in next year's budget.
You'd have to re-sign the lease. Still, you still have to re-sign the lease, but if there's enough money in there for the new lease equipment, you might as well sign your new lease.
So Ken,
Oh, I agree, because it's a,
Huh? Ken, is the screen, all right, bring Mr. Robertson real quick.
yes, for the new one, yeah.
Will not be there. You can pay off the old.
Mr. Robertson, how are you doing?
Right, that's what,
The problem we have with this is the reason the original draft of the cuts that I gave you are actually things that are going to be in the default budget, which was the extra man that we put on and the driver. But also the lease purchase for the grader and loader is taken out because we have no contract. So it can't be part of the operating budget. The only lease that we have in play, it would be the one for the backhoe. So there'll be, the $81,000 is going to come out of that lease in the default. So the two things
Okay.
that, I'm sorry.
So what you're saying is there'd be no money to pay even for the loader and the grader for a year coming, even if you kept the old one?
if we go to default.
If it goes to default.
Yeah.
Kenny, how good do you feel with this grader and loader as it sets now?
The problem with the grader and loader now is because we're gonna run out of the warranties. In other words, anything happens to those things, we own it. That was the idea of the lease purchase, to keep rotating it around, to keep it on a 5-year warranty.
Thank you, Ken.
Yes, sir.
So gentlemen, where do you want to come up with $134,500?
I'm at 2%.
You're at 2%. Where's the other $134,000, 500?
5,000.
Wait a minute.
Your department is dead. They could.
Whoa.
So now, I can't go to the budget committee tomorrow night with $200,000 less unless I know where it's coming from.
Is that a budget book?
It'll come from the same place your default budget's gonna come from.
This reflects the 2%, right?
No, this reflects 65,000.
This reflects $65,000, short $134,500.
This is what they cut in those departments.
How?
For that,
Right.
for the 2%, that's all, that's $65,000.
If the default budget gets voted in, it's less money. It got voted in once before.
Twice, couple of times.
But how did we exist? How did we exist then?
We didn't shop, we didn't do nothing, we
Okay.
didn't move forward.
Okay.
I'm still thinking
We stayed.
2% cut. 2% cut is gonna be easier to sell to the taxpayers than
Default.
7 point whatever it is increase.
Well, all I'm saying is, let me know what line items are coming out of, because I can't go and recommend a $200,000 less budget at the budget committee unless I can tell them what line item.
No, you don't have to do that.
You can't give me a list. Wait a minute. If you cannot give me a list, then one of you three better go represent this board tomorrow night. Because I will not go without a list, line item by department, of where 200,000 is coming from.
I think it's the job of the department heads to make those decisions. That's what their job is. And it's not our job to do that.
Listen, when you go to a company, Mr. Chairman,
Department heads came up with an amount here for you tonight. It comes to $64,500, basically saying this is where it's coming from. This is what they come up with. They feel they can't come up with any more. Mr. Roberts could, I probably could. He probably did what he gave you last time. The new truck and the truck driver position. The only thing is, the new truck doesn't take $200,000 out of the operating budget, only the truck driver does. So, all I'm saying is, if you want me to go defend something I did not vote on, I want to know what line items is coming out of, so I can tell the budget committee where it's coming from instead of just a flat $200,000. Or one of you three could do it tomorrow night for the board. I won't.
These budgets are very, very lean. They came in lean because you asked them to come in lean.
We did,
well,
in all fairness.
all right, let me ask this question. The town operating budget, which is B, Article B. And the way that reads,
Hold on.
If the town will vote and appropriate the sum of $8 million, some odd dollars.
Yep.
$8,370,183.
And right now it says not recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-2.
Right, I recommend.
Right.
That's what it says now.
Yes.
And if nothing changes here tonight, that's the way it'll go before deliberative session. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
Unless the budget committee does something, because they actually, that'll be their number.
This is in there.
Yes, I understand it. Now, but as of now, that's the way it goes before the people at deliberative session.
Right now, yes.
Okay. And if the budget committee goes with our recommendation, the 2% across the board, forget this, where it's going to come from. Because in the business world, that's how it operates. You're a
I'm a businessman, you know. I own a business. Don't say in the business world. I own a business. If I have to make a cut, I make it myself. I don't go to my manager and tell her to find 10%. I do it myself.
Well, that's because you're the bean counter. Yeah, I mean, come on, Ruben, you're a small business.
The bean counters here.
I know.
If you want to cut 2% after you approve the budget, meeting with department heads 2 times, Bob, stand on your feet and pull it out of the line item. Well, you told those department heads 2 times in a meeting, you would approve their budget as is. We all did it. Then you found out, because you didn't carry the bottom line all the way down, oh, it's too high now, 7%. Oh my God, we got to cut it 200%. We're going to have a default budget. We're already going to have a default budget because the indecisiveness of this board.
Oh,
Because it's already out there.
Not the indecisiveness.
I disagree.
It's very indecisive because it's been 4 weeks now on this because you won't make a stand and figure out what line items it should come out of.
Getting back to what Bob said, I get handed a budget where I'm a department head. I get my budget and I'm saying, you got to make it work. It's my job as a department head to do that. It should be the same in the public sector.
Wait a minute, I'm going to ask you a question. You just stated it.
That's just opposite.
You, just opposite, we're staying here.
Right.
You said you can handle the budget and work with it as you want. So the selectmen are saying, we're cutting $200,000, so tell each department head what you're going to cut out of the budget to make the $200,000, tell them to work with it.
Not our job.
You just
it's their
said it's
job.
opposite of what Bob said.
Opposite what Bob said.
You just said opposite. You said you get it from the uppers, that
I
this is
understand.
what your budget is, instead of you determining what your budget is.
I think you misunderstood.
So,
Where I work, I am a department head, all right? If my boss comes to me, the administrator comes to me and says, you're not going to get the budget you want, You're gonna get 2% less, make it work. It's my job to make it work. It's the same with department heads in a town government. It's not, it's the department head's job to figure out how to do it.
Did your bosses meet with you twice to go over your budget?
Say that again?
Did your bosses meet twice to go over your budget?
No, my boss comes to me and says, this is your budget.
All right, well, secondly is, you didn't vote on the budget, walk through it and vote on it, say approve this budget as is, and then down the road say, oh my God, it's too much. We sat here, met with our department heads twice, went through their budget and approved the ones as they were. Now we're going back and saying, oh, geez, it's too much, we're gonna cut it $200,000. You asked them, they came in with an amount, $64,500. So now I'm asking you, if you want me to go to make your recommendations tomorrow night, I want to know where that other $134,500 is coming from. That's all I'm asking. That's very simple. Because otherwise, if you cannot do that, Mr. Holt's got to go defend this, because I will not. Because I will not ask to say, well, which department should be at? I feel it should be done line item by line item, and the selectmen should do it if they want 200,000 off. If you cannot give me a list tonight, I will find Montezuma's revenge tomorrow, because I'll stay home.
I also asked right through this budget season for our page that has that bottom line figure on it, so we could deduct as we did budgets.
And I did it myself as we went through. I was $50,000 off.
But our book shouldn't change that. Should have been in that book from the beginning. It's been in there for over 20 years. It's been in that book, right?
I can remember you asked for that.
I went back for just so you know, I was actually 17 or whatever, and it comes after. You review all the budgets.
I brought them pages in that have been in my books.
Right, but they're done once you get them all.
No.
That's how that is
No,
compiled.
because we sit right here and deduct off that bottom line after every meeting.
But how do you know what the bottom line is if you, because you change it as you go along?
Either way, whatever we cut, we deduct.
All right.
Either way, we go through every single department. We talk to every department. We go through their budgets. Ask them.
I'm gonna call the question and ask for a motion. Is the Board of Selectmen still going with $200,000 reduction in the budget?
Is that a what?
I'm asking, is the majority of the board from last week still requesting $200,000 reduction in the budget?
2% cut.
2% cut.
I am.
Mr. Holt?
Yeah, that's in the minutes, Mr. Chairman. And,
Because I'm not gonna hash this out for another round.
no, there's no sense to it. And the thing is, I'll go before the budget committee if the board agrees to keep going.
Oh,
Okay.
And I'll just explain what we're up to, you know, what we want to do.
what the majority wants to. What's the majority?
What the majority of the board has decided. If the majority of the board goes ahead.
And you're gonna show him this, and then show him that to make your 2%, you're still $150,000.
I'm gonna explain to them. Is the board still in agreement?
I am.
I mean, I don't wanna waste my breath here.
Virgil's up to it too, but, I think that's wrong. You don't take that piece of paper. I think that's wrong. You don't take that piece of paper. Your department did what you asked them to do, and that's what they came up with.
What they just said, is the board still in agreement? I mean.
It was.
And then I'll explain what I'll do.
Well, there's no explaining. As far as I'm concerned, Mr. Holt will represent the board tomorrow night. It will not be in existence because nobody would give me line items for a $200,000 reduction. So, Mr. Holt, you'll have to go tomorrow night as a selectman's representative where you're the alternate. You will have to go to the budget committee tomorrow night where you're the alternate because I will not be in attendance. That'll be out of protest. So, gentlemen, we're gonna move on. Anything else from the town administrator?
What time's their meeting, Mr. Chairman?
I believe it's at 6 o'clock.
Same place.
Same place. Anything else, town administrator? Liz?
No, nothing for
Okay,
open session.
moving on, gentlemen, December 21st, 2020, regular meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes for December 21st, 2020.
Second.
Made by Mr. Rochelle to approve the minutes of December 21st, 2020, regular session, second by Mr. Whitman. Any discussion? I'll poll the board. Mr. McDonald? Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Vote is an affirmative, 4-4, one abstention. Mr. McDonald is the abstention. December 21st, 2020, non-public.
I didn't get to that one.
Entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented from non-public session, December 21st, 2020, and not to divulge number 2 and number 3.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Wentworth to approve the non-public minutes of December 21st, 2020, non-public session, and not to divulge number 2 and number 3. Second by Mr. Rochelle. Discussion? If not, I'll pull the board. Ms. McDonald? Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Votes affirmative, 4-4, one abstention. Mr. McDonald is the abstention. Moving on to the consent agenda.
There is none.
There is none tonight. Discretionary action on request for appointments, no discussion, majority vote required to allow or not to allow. We have none. Non-public session pursuant to RSA 91. 91-A:3, paragraph 2A. Do I have a second? Second.
Question?
I'm in the middle of a motion. I'll get through the motion first, sir.
Oh, I thought you.
Motion by Mr. Wentworth, go on public session underneath RSA 91-A:3, paragraph 2A, second by Mr. McDonald. Yes. Discussion.
A is for personnel?
Personnel. Yes, sir. At this point, I'll poll the board. If there's no further discussion, Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Mr. Whitman.
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle.
Yes.
Mr. Holt.
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Folks and ladies, if you don't mind, I'll ask for a 7-minute recess. If we could, please, before we go in non-public. And folks, we are in non-public session at 7:17. We will be back in public session shortly thereafter. We'll have to go through that again.
Yeah.
Evening, folks. We are back in public session at 7:46 out of non-public session. Gentlemen, I'd entertain a motion not to divulge number one and number two non-public session underneath A and B.
Second?
Second by Mr. McDonald. Any discussion? I'll poll the board. Mr. Wentworth, yes. Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Votes in the affirmative. And there's no other business to conduct tonight, and so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:46.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. McDonald to adjourn at 7:46, second by Mr. Whitman. Any discussion? Poll the board. Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Votes in affirmative. Folks, thanks for joining us tonight. And you can always join tomorrow night on the budget committee. And also, don't forget the public hearing in another week.
Budget, yeah, 13th is the budget.
Hearing.